I stared at my phone in disbelief, my mother's words echoing in my head like a broken record. 3 days before Thanksgiving, she had just uninvited me from our family dinner. Her voice was cold matter-of-fact, as if she were canceling a dentist appointment rather than destroying 28 years of tradition. "Your sister wants her boyfriend to make a good first impression," she had said. "She thinks having you there would make her look bad." The silence that followed was deafening. I hung up without another word, my hands shaking as I stared at the turkey I had already bought for our family gathering, sitting there on my kitchen counter like a cruel joke. The apartment above my garage felt smaller than usual as I paced back and forth, replaying the conversation over and over. My mother's words cut deeper each time I remembered them. 28 years of family gatherings, and now I was suddenly too embarrassing for my own sister's boyfriend to meet. I collapsed onto my worn leather couch, the same one I had bought secondhand when I first moved out at 19. Back then, Amanda had been proud of me for getting my own place. She was only 15 still in high school, and she would come over every weekend to hang out in what she called my bachelor pad. We would order pizza and watch movies, and she would tell me about her dreams of going to college and becoming something important. Those were different times. I had worked 2 jobs throughout high school to help our parents save money for Amanda's college fund. While other kids were going to parties and football games, I was stocking shelves at the grocery store and washing dishes at the local diner. I never minded it because Amanda was smart, really smart, and she deserved every opportunity I could help give her. She graduated from Northwestern University with a marketing degree, landed a job at some tech company in the city, and moved into a fancy apartment downtown. Meanwhile, I had chosen trade school, learned automotive repair, and eventually partnered with my best friend Jake to buy the garage where I now worked. It was not glamorous, but it was honest work, and we had built a solid reputation in our community. The irony was not lost on me that while Amanda was embarrassed by my blue-collar job, I actually made more money than she did. Our garage specialized in European imports, and wealthy clients paid premium prices for quality work. But apparently that did not matter to my family. What mattered was how things looked on the surface. I grabbed my phone and called Jake. He picked up on the second ring, probably hearing the strain in my voice when I said his name. "What's wrong, buddy?" he asked immediately. I told him about the phone call about being uninvited from Thanksgiving because my presence would somehow tarnish my sister's image. Jake was quiet for a long moment before he sighed heavily. "Barry, I hate to make this worse, but I think you need to know something," he said. "Last week I was at that coffee shop on Main Street, and I overheard Amanda talking to some guy. She was laughing about having an embarrassing blue-collar brother who fixes cars for a living. She said she was glad her new boyfriend had never met you because you would ruin the image she had worked so hard to create." The words hit me like a physical blow. Amanda had not just been thinking these things privately, she had been actively mocking me to strangers. I felt sick to my stomach. "There's more," Jake continued reluctantly. "She told this guy that she had been telling her boyfriend she was practically an only child. Barry, she's been pretending you don't exist." After I hung up with Jake, I sat in stunned silence for what felt like hours. Finally, curiosity got the better of me, and I opened Amanda's social media profiles. What I found there made everything so much worse. There were dozens of photos from company parties, charity events, and social gatherings. In several of them, I could see the edges of family photos that had been cropped to remove me from the frame. In one picture from last Christmas, our entire family had posed together in front of the fireplace. Amanda had posted a version where I had been completely edited out, leaving just her with our parents. But it was the comments that really broke my heart. Under one post, a coworker had asked about her family, and Amanda had responded, "Oh, it's just me and my parents. I'm basically an only child. My parents always joke that I got all the good genes." I scrolled through months of posts, finding comment after comment where Amanda either ignored questions about siblings or actively denied my existence. She had created an entire fictional version of our family where I simply did not exist. Saturday morning, I drove to my parents' house in their upscale suburban neighborhood. The pristine lawns and matching mailboxes felt foreign to me now, even though I had grown up here. I parked my truck in the driveway, noting how out of place it looked next to my father's luxury sedan. My mother answered the door wearing her good apron, the one she only used when important guests were coming. Her face fell when she saw me standing there. "Barry, what are you doing here?" she asked, not inviting me inside. "We need to talk," I said firmly. "All of us." I walked past her into the living room where my father was polishing his golf trophies. He looked up with the same uncomfortable expression my mother wore. "Son, if this is about Thanksgiving, we've already explained our position," he said, without stopping his polishing. "Your position," I repeated. "Dad, I'm your son. I've been part of this family for 32 years. Since when do I need a position to attend family dinner?" My mother sat down heavily in her chair, wringing her hands. "It's just one dinner, Barry. Amanda has been working so hard to make a good impression with David. He comes from such a refined family, and we don't want anything to complicate things." Complicate things. I stared at her in disbelief. "You mean you don't want him to know that Amanda has a brother who works with his hands for a living?" My father set down his cloth and faced me. "Now that's not fair, Barry. We're proud of what you do. It's just that David's world is different. He's an executive at some big investment firm, drives one of those fancy German cars, lives in a penthouse downtown. Amanda wants to fit into that world. And I don't fit into that world because I fix cars." "Because you chose to fix cars," my mother corrected. "Amanda had potential, Barry. She went to a good school, got a respectable job. She's trying to build something." The words stung because they revealed what my parents really thought about my choices. To them, I had settled for less, while Amanda had achieved something worthy of pride. "Did you know Amanda makes less money than I do?" I asked. "Our garage brought in more profit last year than her entire department at that tech company." My father waved his hand dismissively. "It's not about money, Barry. It's about respectability. It's about the kind of people you associate with the kind of life you build." I looked around the living room, suddenly noticing things I had somehow missed before. The mantle, which used to display both Amanda's college graduation photo and my high school football team picture, now only showed Amanda's achievements. My trophies and certificates were nowhere to be seen. "Where are my things?" I asked quietly. My mother's face reddened. "We just moved some things around to make room for Amanda's new accomplishments. Your things are safe in the basement." "In the basement?" I nodded slowly, understanding dawning on me. "You hid evidence of my existence because you're embarrassed by me too." "That's not true," my father said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Did Amanda ask you to do this?" My parents exchanged a glance that told me everything I needed to know. "She mentioned that David comes from a very particular background," my mother admitted. "His parents are both doctors, and his social circle is quite sophisticated. She just thought it might be easier if we focused on presenting our family in the best possible light." "And the best possible light doesn't include me." "You're putting words in our mouths," my father said defensively. "Am I? Then why won't you let me talk to Amanda directly? Why won't you tell me where this David person is from or what he's like? Why do I feel like you've all been planning this behind my back?" "Because we have been," my mother said quietly, then immediately looked like she regretted the admission. The silence that followed was deafening. My parents had just confirmed that they had conspired to exclude me from our family gathering. They had discussed it, planned it, and decided that I was too much of a liability to include. I was about to respond when my phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. "Is this Amanda's brother? We need to talk. David." My parents did not know that Amanda's boyfriend had just reached out to me directly. But as I read the message again, I realized that somehow David had found my phone number and wanted to meet. This changed everything. Monday evening, I found myself sitting across from David Harrison at Romano's, the most expensive restaurant in town. I had expected someone arrogant and pretentious, but the man who stood to greet me was surprisingly normal. He was tall and well-dressed, certainly, but his handshake was firm and his smile seemed genuine. "Barry, thank you for meeting me," he said as we sat down. "I know this must seem strange, getting a call from someone you've never met. It definitely caught me off guard," I admitted. "How did you get my number?" David looked uncomfortable for a moment. "I hired a private investigator to look into Amanda's background before I proposed to her. I know that sounds terrible, but my family has significant assets, and my lawyer recommended it as standard practice. You're planning to propose to my sister." "I was," David said carefully, "until I learned that she's been lying to me about virtually everything regarding her family." I studied his face, trying to gauge whether this was some kind of setup. "What exactly did she tell you?" David pulled out his phone and showed me several text messages. "She told me her parents were both successful professionals, that her father was a financial advisor, and her mother was a real estate broker. She said she was an only child, and that her family was very close-knit but small." The messages were all in Amanda's writing style, casual but carefully crafted to present the image she wanted. Reading them felt like discovering love letters written by a stranger who happened to share my sister's name. "But that's not the most concerning part," David continued. "When I mentioned wanting to meet her family, she kept making excuses. First, her parents were traveling. Then they were sick. Then they were busy with work. Finally, she agreed to Thanksgiving dinner, but insisted it would just be the four of us because, according to her, that's the entire family." I shook my head in amazement. Amanda's web of lies was even more elaborate than I had realized. "Can I ask you something personal?" David said. "What kind of relationship do you and Amanda have?" I thought about how to answer that honestly. "We used to be close when we were younger. I helped pay for her college education, working extra jobs throughout high school. But over the past few years, she's become distant. I thought it was just because she was busy building her career, but now I realize she was embarrassed by her family background." David nodded thoughtfully. "The investigator told me you own a successful automotive repair business. He was actually quite impressed by your customer reviews and community reputation." "You investigated me too?" "I investigate everyone who might become part of my family," David said matter-of-factly. "My father taught me that you can learn more about someone's character by looking at their family relationships than by anything else they tell you." David went on to tell me about his own background, and I was surprised to learn that he had grown up in a small town in rural Pennsylvania. His father had worked in the coal mines, and his mother had cleaned houses to make ends meet. David had earned academic scholarships that allowed him to attend Princeton, where he studied economics and finance. "I worked 3 jobs during college," he said. "I cleaned offices at night, tutored other students, and worked in the campus library during the day. I graduated with honors and landed a position at an investment firm in New York. Everything I have, I earned through hard work and sacrifice." That must be why Amanda didn't want you to meet us, I realized. She was afraid you would see her real background and think less of her. "The opposite is true," David said firmly. "I have tremendous respect for people who work hard and support their families. What I don't respect is dishonesty and disloyalty. When I learned that Amanda had been lying about her family, and specifically that she had been denying your existence, I lost all interest in marrying her." David reached into his jacket and pulled out a small velvet box. "I bought this 3 weeks ago. I planned to propose to her at Thanksgiving dinner in front of her family because I wanted her loved ones to be part of the moment." He opened the box to reveal a stunning diamond ring that probably cost more than I made in 6 months. "But now I can't even look at it without feeling disgusted," he continued. "How could I marry someone who treats her own brother like he's something to be ashamed of? Someone who lies about the very people who sacrifice to give her opportunities?" I found myself liking David more and more as our conversation continued. Despite his wealth and education, he had not lost sight of his values or forgotten where he came from. "I have a proposition for you," David said finally. "I want to attend Thanksgiving dinner at your parents' house, just as Amanda planned. But I want you to be there too, as my specifically requested guest. I want to see how Amanda reacts when her two worlds collide." "You want to set her up?" "I want to give her a chance to tell the truth," David corrected. "If she comes clean about her lies and apologizes for her behavior, maybe we can work through this. But if she continues to lie and tries to exclude you from your own family gathering, then I'll know exactly what kind of person I was about to marry." I thought about his proposal for a long moment. Part of me felt guilty about potentially sabotaging Amanda's relationship, but another part of me was tired of being treated like a family secret. "What if she refuses to let me attend?" David smiled for the first time since we had sat down. "Barry, I'm paying for the entire dinner. I arranged for Romano's catering service to handle everything at your parents' house. Technically, I'm the host, and as the host, I get to decide who's invited." Tuesday morning, David and I met at a coffee shop to finalize our plan. He had thought of everything, including how to present the situation to my parents without making them suspicious. "I'm going to call your mother this afternoon and mention how excited I am to meet Amanda's brother," David explained. "I'll tell her that family is very important to me and that getting to know you is a priority before I propose to Amanda. What if my parents try to discourage you?" "Then I'll know they're complicit in Amanda's deception," David said simply. "But I suspect they'll be so focused on making a good impression that they won't want to contradict something I've specifically requested." David was right. An hour after he called my mother, my phone started ringing. It was my father, and he sounded confused and slightly panicked. "Barry, we need to talk," he said without preamble. "David just called your mother and said he's looking forward to meeting you at Thanksgiving dinner. He seemed to think you were definitely going to be there." "Maybe Amanda told him I would be," I suggested innocently. "But we told you that you weren't invited." "Maybe you should ask Amanda about that," I replied. "It sounds like there might be some miscommunication." My father was quiet for a moment. "David also mentioned something about wanting to get your blessing before he proposes to Amanda. He said family approval is very important to him." "That's nice of him." "Barry, you have to understand our position here. This is a very important relationship for Amanda. We can't have any complications." "What kind of complications are you worried about, Dad?" Another pause. "Just promise me you'll be on your best behavior if you do come to dinner." "I'll be myself," I said. "Whether that's my best behavior or not is apparently up for debate in our family." That evening, Amanda called me for the first time in months. Her voice was shaking with barely controlled panic. "Barry, what did you say to David?" she demanded. "I've never met David," I replied truthfully. "Why?" "He keeps asking about you. He wants to know about our childhood, about what kind of brother you are, about your business. Why is he so interested in you?" Maybe because most people find it strange when someone claims to be an only child, but actually has a sibling. "You don't understand," Amanda said desperately. "This relationship is important to me. David is exactly the kind of man I've been trying to meet my entire adult life. He's successful, sophisticated, well-connected. He could open doors for my career that I could never open on my own. And you think having a mechanic for a brother would ruin that?" Honestly, yes. David's social circle consists of doctors, lawyers, investment bankers. These people judge you based on your family background, your connections, your status. They don't understand blue-collar work, and they definitely don't respect it. Have you ever considered that maybe David is different? That maybe he would respect hard work and family loyalty? Amanda laughed bitterly. "Barry, you're so naive. Rich people don't think like us. They live in a completely different world, and they expect everyone in their circle to come from the same background they do. If David knew the truth about our family, he would lose interest immediately. So your solution is to lie to him indefinitely?" My solution is to protect what I've built, Amanda snapped. I've worked too hard to let anyone jeopardize my future. Even if that anyone is your own brother? Especially if it's my own brother, she said and hung up. Wednesday afternoon, the day before Thanksgiving, Amanda showed up at my apartment with a police officer. She was wearing her most expensive outfit and had clearly been crying, though she had attempted to cover it with makeup. "Officer Martinez, this is my brother," she said, pointing at me like I was evidence in a crime scene. "He's been threatening me and my boyfriend. I have text messages proving he's been harassing us." Officer Martinez looked tired and skeptical. He was a middle-aged Hispanic man with kind eyes and the patient expression of someone who had dealt with family disputes many times before. "Sir, I'm going to need to see some identification," he said to me. As I handed over my driver's license, Officer Martinez's expression changed. "Barry Thompson? You're the guy who fixed my patrol car last month when it broke down on Highway 12. "Nah, that's right," I said, remembering the emergency call we had responded to when his cruiser had overheated during a pursuit. "You stayed 2 hours past closing time to get my car running so I wouldn't miss my daughter's school play." Officer Martinez continued, then turned to Amanda. "Ma'am, I think there might be some confusion here. This man has an excellent reputation in our community." Amanda's face flushed red. "Officer, you don't understand the situation. He's been trying to sabotage my relationship." "What exactly has he done?" Officer Martinez asked. Amanda fumbled for an answer. He's planning to attend our family dinner uninvited. He's going to cause problems with my boyfriend." Officer Martinez looked at me, then back at Amanda. "Ma'am, attending a family dinner isn't a crime. Do you have evidence of any actual threats?" "I have text messages," Amanda insisted, pulling out her phone. She showed Officer Martinez several screenshots, but as he read them, his expression grew more skeptical. "Ma'am, these messages appear to be from your boyfriend, not your brother. And they're about him wanting to meet your family members. That's not harassment. That's normal relationship behavior." Amanda's entire plan was falling apart in front of my eyes. She had tried to use the police to intimidate me into staying away from Thanksgiving dinner, but her story was so obviously fabricated that even she could not keep it straight. "I think there's been a misunderstanding here," Officer Martinez said diplomatically. "Family disputes should be handled within the family, not through the legal system. Unless there are genuine threats or evidence of harassment, this isn't a police matter." After they left, I called David to tell him about Amanda's desperate attempt to keep me away from dinner. "She's more panicked than I expected," he admitted. "I've been asking casual questions about her family all week, and she's been getting increasingly agitated. Yesterday, she actually suggested we skip Thanksgiving dinner altogether and go to a resort instead." "What did you tell her?" "I told her that family traditions are sacred to me, and that I was specifically looking forward to meeting her parents and her brother." She turned white and excused herself to go to the bathroom. When she came back, she seemed like a completely different person. "Tomorrow is going to be interesting," I said. "Barry, I want you to know that regardless of what happens with Amanda and me, I'm glad we met. You're exactly the kind of person I respect, and your family should be proud to have you." As I went to sleep that night, I felt a strange sense of calm. For the first time in years, I was not dreading a family gathering. Instead, I was looking forward to it. Thanksgiving morning arrived with unseasonably warm weather and clear skies. I spent an hour getting ready, choosing my best clothes, and making sure I looked presentable. David had been right about one thing. This was going to be a day that changed everything for our family. I arrived at my parents' house at exactly 2 o'clock as David had arranged. His black Mercedes was already parked in the driveway, and I could see expensive floral arrangements through the front windows. Romano's catering truck was just pulling away, having delivered what was undoubtedly the most elaborate Thanksgiving dinner our family had ever had. My mother answered the door wearing a dress I had never seen before, probably purchased specifically for this occasion. Her face went through several expressions when she saw me: surprise, confusion, and something that might have been relief. "Barry, you came she said, stepping aside to let me in. David specifically asked me to be here. I replied, handing her a bottle of wine I had brought. The living room had been transformed for the occasion. Fresh flowers adorned every surface. My mother's good china was set out on the dining room table, and the whole house smelled like expensive catering instead of my mother's usual cooking. Amanda and David were standing near the fireplace, and the contrast between their expressions was striking. David looked genuinely happy to see me crossing the room to shake my hand warmly. "Barry, I've been looking forward to this all week. Thank you for making time to join us." Amanda, on the other hand, looked like she was about to be sick. Her face was pale, and her hands were trembling slightly as she clutched her wine glass. "David, this is such a surprise," she said, her voice pitched higher than usual. "I thought we discussed keeping things small this year." "Family is never too small," David replied, not taking his eyes off me. "I was just telling your parents how much I've been looking forward to hearing stories about you and Barry growing up together." My father, clearly trying to play the perfect host, gestured toward the couch. "Why don't we all sit down and get to know each other better?" As we settled into conversation, David proved to be a masterful interviewer. He asked questions that seemed innocent on the surface, but forced Amanda to either lie directly or admit to her deceptions. "Amanda has told me so many wonderful stories about her childhood," David said. "Barry, what was she like as a little sister?" I glanced at Amanda, whose eyes were pleading with me to play along with whatever story she had told him. "Amanda was always ambitious," I said carefully. "Even as a kid, she had big dreams about the life she wanted to build for herself." "And that's what I love about her," David replied. "She's so driven and focused. I imagine having a supportive big brother like you really helped her develop that confidence." Amanda nearly choked on her wine. Actually, Barry worked 2 jobs throughout high school to help pay for Amanda's college education, my father said, proudly apparently, forgetting that this was exactly the kind of detail Amanda wanted to hide. "He sacrificed a lot of his own social life to help our family save money for her tuition." David turned to look at me with genuine admiration. "That's incredible, Barry. That kind of family loyalty is rare these days." "Barry has always been very generous," my mother added, warming to the topic now that David seemed impressed rather than judgmental. "Even now he helps us with car repairs and home maintenance projects. He redid our entire kitchen last spring." "You did that beautiful kitchen renovation yourself?" David asked. "I was admiring the craftsmanship earlier. That's professional level work." Amanda stood up abruptly. "I need some air," she announced, and walked out onto the back patio. David excused himself to check on her, leaving me alone with my parents for the first time since the whole situation had started. "He's not what we expected," my mother admitted quietly. "What did you expect?" I asked. "Someone more formal," my father replied. "Someone who would look down on our lifestyle. But he seems genuinely interested in our family stories." Through the patio doors, I could see David and Amanda having an intense conversation. Amanda was gesturing frantically while David stood with his arms crossed, his expression growing more serious by the moment. They came back inside just as my mother was calling everyone to the dinner table. Amanda's makeup had been touched up, but her eyes were red-rimmed, and she would not look at anyone directly. The dinner conversation continued along the same pattern, with David asking innocent questions that revealed more and more about Amanda's lies. When he mentioned how much he admired families who stayed close despite different career paths, Amanda excused herself to go to the bathroom and did not come back for 15 minutes. Finally, during dessert, David set down his fork and looked directly at Amanda. "I have something important to discuss with everyone," he said. "Amanda, I've been planning to propose to you today in front of your family because I believe that family should be part of life's most important moments." My parents gasped in excitement, and Amanda's face lit up for the first time all day. David reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out the ring box, setting it on the table where everyone could see it. "But before I ask Amanda to marry me, I need to address something that's been troubling me." The room went completely silent. "Amanda, 3 weeks ago, I hired a private investigator to look into your background. I know that sounds unromantic, but my family has significant assets and it's standard practice. Amanda's face went white. What I discovered is that you've been lying to me about almost everything regarding your family. You told me you were an only child. You told me your parents were professionals. You denied the existence of your brother Barry, who apparently worked multiple jobs to help pay for your education. David opened his laptop, which had been sitting nearby, and turned it toward the table. On the screen were screenshots of Amanda's social media posts, text messages, and other evidence of her deceptions. You cropped Barry out of family photos before posting them online. You told colleagues you were practically an only child. You've spent months constructing an elaborate lie about your family background. Amanda started crying, but these were not tears of sadness. They were tears of rage and frustration at being caught. "David, you don't understand," she began, but he held up his hand to stop her. "I understand perfectly," he said. "I grew up poor, Amanda. My father worked in coal mines, and my mother cleaned houses. I know what it's like to be embarrassed by your family's economic status, but I also know the difference between growing beyond your circumstances and abandoning the people who love you." He picked up the ring box and put it back in his pocket. "I can't marry someone who betrays her own family. I can't build a life with someone who lies about the people who sacrificed for her success. And I especially can't marry someone who treats her brother like he's something to be ashamed of, when he's clearly one of the most honorable people in this room." Amanda stood up so quickly that her chair fell over. "You're making a huge mistake, David. You don't know what you're throwing away." "I'm throwing away a relationship built on lies with someone who has no loyalty to the people who love her most," David replied calmly. "I consider that a narrow escape." Amanda looked around the table at all of us, her face a mixture of fury and desperation. "This is all your fault, Barry. You couldn't stand to see me happy, so you sabotaged my relationship." "Barry didn't sabotage anything," David said firmly. "You sabotaged it yourself the moment you decided that your family wasn't good enough for the life you wanted to build." With that, David stood up and shook hands with my parents, thanked them for their hospitality, and gave me his business card. "Barry, I meant what I said about wanting to stay in touch. You're welcome to call me anytime." After David left, Amanda turned on all of us with a fury I had never seen before. "I hope you're all happy," she screamed. "You've just cost me the best relationship I've ever had. I'll never forgive any of you for this." "Amanda," my father said quietly, "David was right. What you did was wrong." "What I did was try to build a better life for myself," Amanda shot back, "and all of you were holding me back." She grabbed her purse and headed for the door. "Don't expect to hear from me again. I'm done with this family." The front door slammed behind her, leaving the three of us sitting in stunned silence around a table full of untouched gourmet food. The silence that followed Amanda's departure felt heavy and strange. My parents and I sat at the dining room table, surrounded by the remnants of what was supposed to have been a celebration processing what had just happened. My mother was the first to speak. 32 years of family dinners, and I've never seen anything like that." "She'll calm down and come back," my father said, but his voice lacked conviction. "She's just embarrassed and angry right now." I looked at my parents, really looked at them, and saw something I had never noticed before. They looked older, more fragile, as if the events of the afternoon had aged them several years in a few hours. "Mom, Dad, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me," I said. "Did you really think hiding me was the right thing to do?" My mother's eyes filled with tears. "We thought we were helping Amanda succeed. We thought if David saw her family as more refined, it would be better for her future. But what about my future? What about how it made me feel to be treated like a family secret?" My father removed his glasses and rubbed his eyes. "Barry, we made a terrible mistake. We got so caught up in Amanda's ambition that we forgot what really matters, which is what our family loyalty," my mother said quietly. The way you supported Amanda through college, the way you've always been there for us when we needed help, the way you've built an honest life for yourself. We should have been proud of that, instead of hiding it." My father nodded in agreement. "David was right about you, son. You're one of the most honorable people in this room, and we've been treating you like you're something to be ashamed of." It was the first time in years that my parents had acknowledged my worth without qualifications or comparisons to Amanda's achievements. It should have felt good, but mostly it just felt sad that it had taken this disaster for them to recognize it. Over the next few days, word spread quickly through my parents' social circle about what had happened at Thanksgiving dinner. My mother received several phone calls from neighbors and friends who wanted to know why David had left so abruptly and why Amanda was not answering her phone. My parents were forced to explain in embarrassing detail how they had tried to hide their son's existence to help their daughter make a good impression on her wealthy boyfriend. The story made them look foolish and shallow, and they faced social consequences they had not anticipated. Meanwhile, David kept his word about staying in touch. He called me the following Monday to check on how I was doing and to ask if I would be interested in some networking opportunities. "I know several people who own classic cars that need specialized maintenance," he said. "They've been looking for a mechanic they can trust with expensive vehicles. Would you be interested in expanding your client base?" "Absolutely," I replied. "That's exactly the direction Jake and I have been wanting to take the business." "I'll make some calls and send some referrals your way," David promised. "And Barry, I want you to know that meeting you helped me dodge a bullet. I was about to marry someone who had completely different values than I thought she did." 3 days after Thanksgiving, Amanda's company called my parents' house looking for her. She had not shown up for work since the holiday, and her supervisor was concerned. When my parents finally reached her, they learned that Amanda had been staying in a hotel too humiliated to face anyone who might have heard about her situation. But the consequences for Amanda were just beginning. By the end of the week, someone from David's social circle had shared the story with colleagues in Amanda's professional network. In the corporate world of marketing and tech companies, reputation matters enormously, and word spreads quickly about personal scandals. Amanda's supervisor called her in for a meeting to discuss concerns about personal conduct that might reflect poorly on the company's image. It turned out that Amanda had also lied on her job application about her educational background and family circumstances, claiming to come from a more privileged background than she actually did. 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, Amanda was terminated from her job for misrepresentation of personal background information on her employment application. Her professional reputation in the city was severely damaged, and she found herself blacklisted from several other companies where David's associates had influence. Finally swallowing what remained of her pride, Amanda called me. "Barry, I need your help," she said, her voice smaller and more vulnerable than I had heard since she was a child. "What kind of help?" "I need a job," she admitted. "I can't get hired anywhere in my field because word has gotten around about what happened. I've been living off savings for 2 weeks and I'm running out of money." "What do you want me to do about it?" "Jake mentioned that you know the owner of that marketing firm downtown, the one that handles advertising for local businesses. Could you put in a good word for me?" It was ironic that Amanda, who had spent so much energy distancing herself from my blue-collar connections, was now asking me to use those same connections to help her. "Amanda, before I help you with anything, I need to hear you acknowledge what you did wrong." There was a long pause. "I made some mistakes." "What mistakes specifically?" Another pause, longer this time. "I lied to David about our family. I was embarrassed about our background, and I thought I could create a better image for myself. And I treated you badly. I acted like I was ashamed of you, and that was wrong." It was not a complete apology, but it was more accountability than Amanda had ever taken for her actions before. "If I help you get an interview, you have to promise me something," I said. "What?" "No more lies. No more pretending to be something you're not. No more treating family members like they're expendable for your career advancement." "I promise," she said quietly. I called Tom Peterson, who owned Peterson Marketing Group, and explained Amanda's situation honestly. I told him about her qualifications, her recent termination, and the circumstances that had led to her current predicament. She made some serious errors in judgment, I admitted, but she's talented at her job, and I think she's learned from her mistakes. She needs a chance to rebuild her reputation. Tom agreed to interview Amanda, but only as a favor to me, and only for an entry-level position with significantly lower pay than what she had been making before. Amanda swallowed her pride and took the job. 2 months after Thanksgiving, my life had changed in ways I never could have imagined. David's networking had brought several high-end clients to our garage, including a collector who owned 7 vintage Ferraris and a local businessman with a fleet of luxury vehicles. Jake and I were so busy that we hired 3 additional mechanics and expanded into the empty space next door. The local newspaper featured our garage in a small business spotlight article, praising our community involvement and customer service. My mother framed the article and hung it prominently in the living room, right where Amanda's college graduation photo used to be the only family achievement on display. My father started stopping by the garage regularly, not because his car needed work, but because he genuinely wanted to understand what I did for a living. He would bring coffee and sit in the waiting area, watching me work and asking questions about the technical aspects of automotive repair. "I never realized how much skill this requires," he admitted one afternoon watching me rebuild an engine. "I always thought of it as just manual labor." "Most people do," I replied. "But these modern cars are basically computers with wheels. You have to understand electronics, hydraulics, fuel systems, emissions controls. It's as complex as any other technical field." My mother had started attending therapy to address what she called her shameful behavior toward me over the years. She was working to understand how she had allowed favoritism to damage our family relationships. I think I was living vicariously through Amanda's success. She explained during one of our weekly coffee meetings, which had become a new tradition. I wanted so badly for her to have the kind of life I never had that I lost sight of what was really important. Which is what I asked, echoing the question I had posed to both my parents on Thanksgiving. "Being proud of both my children for who they are, not who I think they should be," she replied. "You've built an honest life doing work that helps people. You're respected in your community, you're financially successful, and you've maintained your integrity. I should have been celebrating that instead of hiding it." Amanda's journey was more difficult. Working at Peterson Marketing Group was humbling for someone who had been accustomed to a more prestigious position. She started as an assistant account manager handling small local businesses instead of major corporate clients. Her salary was less than half what she had been making before, and she had to move out of her expensive downtown apartment into a modest place closer to our childhood neighborhood. But something interesting happened as Amanda adjusted to her new circumstances. Without the pressure of maintaining an artificial image, she began developing genuine friendships with her coworkers. She started volunteering at the community center on weekends, helping kids with homework and college applications. For the first time in years, she was forming relationships based on who she really was, instead of who she pretended to be. "I forgot how good it feels to be authentic with people," she told me during one of our monthly lunch meetings, another new tradition that had developed since Thanksgiving. "I spent so much energy maintaining lies that I had forgotten how exhausting it was." David and I had developed an unlikely friendship. We met for dinner once a month, and he had become something of a mentor to me as I expanded my business. He introduced me to his accountant and lawyer, helped me understand investment strategies, and even invested in the garage expansion as a silent partner. "You know what I admire most about you," he said during one of our dinners. "You never tried to be anything other than who you are. You took pride in your work, you supported your family, and you maintained your values, even when people tried to make you feel ashamed of them." It wasn't always easy, I admitted. There were times when I wondered if Amanda was right, if I should have tried to be more ambitious or pursued a more prestigious career. Prestige without character is worthless, David replied. I've met plenty of people with impressive titles and expensive educations who have no integrity whatsoever. Give me an honest mechanic over a dishonest executive any day. The most significant change in my life came through David's introduction to Sarah Mitchell, a third-grade teacher at the local elementary school. Sarah was down-to-earth intelligent and completely unimpressed by material status symbols. Our first conversation lasted 4 hours covering everything from classic literature to carburetor repair, and I knew immediately that I had met someone special. I love that you're proud of your work, she told me on our third date. Too many people apologize for what they do for a living. You should never have to apologize for honest work that helps people. 6 months after Thanksgiving, our family had settled into new patterns and traditions. Sunday dinners resumed, but with a completely different dynamic. Amanda would often arrive straight from her volunteer work at the community center, still wearing jeans and sneakers, instead of the designer outfits she used to insist on. My parents asked genuine questions about my business and treated my achievements with the same pride they had always shown for Amanda's accomplishments. One Sunday, Amanda brought up David during dinner. I saw his engagement announcement in the newspaper, she said quietly. He's marrying someone from his law firm. How do you feel about that? My mother asked gently. Amanda thought for a moment before answering. I feel like he made the right choice. I wasn't ready to be the kind of partner he deserved. I was too focused on what his status could do for me instead of what I could bring to the relationship. Do you regret how things ended? I asked. I regret the lying and the dishonesty, Amanda replied. But I don't regret the wake-up call. I needed to learn that relationships built on deception don't last, and that family loyalty matters more than social status. As Christmas approached, my mother suggested we start a new tradition. Instead of focusing on expensive gifts, we would each share something we had learned about ourselves during the year. When my turn came, I said, I learned that my worth isn't determined by other people's opinions of my career or my lifestyle. I learned that authentic relationships are built on truth, not on the image we think people want to see. And I learned that sometimes the best thing you can do for someone you love is to let them face the consequences of their choices instead of protecting them from reality. Amanda nodded thoughtfully. I learned that ambition without integrity is destructive. I learned that denying your family to impress other people costs more than you realize until it's too late. And I learned that starting over with honesty is better than succeeding through deception. My father shared that he had learned the difference between supporting his children's dreams and pressuring them to meet his expectations. My mother talked about recognizing the damage that favoritism can cause and the importance of celebrating each child's unique path. As we sat around the dinner table that Christmas evening, I realized that our family crisis had ultimately brought us closer together than we had been in years. The painful process of confronting our dysfunction had forced us to have honest conversations we had been avoiding for decades. Sarah, who had joined us for dinner and fit seamlessly into our family dynamic, raised her glass for a toast. To the Thompson family, she said, for proving that it's never too late to choose authenticity over artifice and love over status. As we clinked glasses, I felt a deep sense of satisfaction and peace. The journey from that devastating phone call in November to this moment of family unity had been difficult, but it had taught us all invaluable lessons about what really matters in life. True worth comes from integrity, hard work, and treating others with respect regardless of their social or economic status. Family loyalty must be mutual and cannot be one-sided. Authentic relationships built on truth are infinitely more valuable than artificial connections built on deception. Sometimes the greatest gift we can give someone we love is allowing them to face the natural consequences of their choices, because that's often the only way they can learn and grow. And forgiveness doesn't mean accepting poor treatment. It means choosing peace while maintaining healthy boundaries that protect your own dignity and self-worth. Most importantly, success should be measured by the positive impact we have on others and the strength of our character, not by external markers of status or wealth. The people who truly matter will value you for who you are, not what you do for a living or how much money you make. As I looked around the table at my family, genuinely happy together for the first time in years, I realized that our Thanksgiving disaster had ultimately been a gift. It had forced us to confront painful truths, make difficult changes, and rebuild our relationships on a foundation of honesty and mutual respect. Now, I want to ask you something. Have you ever felt like the black sheep of your family because of the career path you chose or the life you built? Have you experienced the pain of family members treating you like you're not good enough? How did you handle it? Share your story in the comments below, because your experience might help someone else who's going through the same thing. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button to let me know. Subscribe to hear more stories about family dynamics, standing up for yourself, and finding your worth in a world that often judges people by superficial standards. And please share this video with someone who might need to hear that their value isn't determined by other people's expectations. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, you don't need anyone's permission to be proud of the honest life you've built. The right people will appreciate you for exactly who you are.